Here's the scary part. The wound's already healed by the time the disease finally shows up. Maybe a dog nipped your hand a couple months back. Maybe a bat left a scratch so tiny you barely noticed. The bleeding stopped, the skin closed up, life moved on. Long enough that mentioning it now feels kind of silly. Then the old bite starts to tingle. You get a fever. Sleep won't come. You feel anxious for no reason at all. Someone hands you a glass of water, and your throat clamps shut so hard your whole body jerks away from the one thing you need most. You're still thirsty. You try again. Same thing. Your throat won't let you drink. And by the time that happens, the window to save you is usually already gone. Now, plenty of diseases have terrifying resumes. The plague wiped out entire cities. Smallpox killed hundreds of millions and left survivors scarred or blind. So much water from your body that you're dead in hours. All horrifying, no argument there. But if terrifying means the disease that combines dread, mental collapse, physical torture, and near certain death once symptoms start, one name stands alone: rabies. It doesn't win on body count. It wins by making you understand, piece by piece, that something crawled into your body weeks or months ago, and it's finally reached the one place doctors can't reach it. Let's walk through this properly. Here's the thing. There's no lab test for terror. You can't line up smallpox, plague, cholera, and rabies on a scale and get one clean answer. Fear depends on how a disease acts, how fast it moves, whether you stay awake for it, whether anyone even knows what's happening, and whether there's a cure. Smallpox? Probably history's most destructive disease, hands down. High fever, deep lesions all over the face and body. About 30% of unvaccinated people died, and the rare forms were almost always fatal. Survivors carried scars for life. Some went blind. The World Health Organization estimates smallpox killed roughly 300 million people in the 20th century alone. The plague brought a different flavor of fear. Swollen, painful lumps. A lung version that spread through the air and killed almost everyone it touched. You'd watch it march through your street, house by house, with no way to stop it. Cholera? That one made the body empty itself out. Violent diarrhea and vomiting. Fluid gone so fast that people collapsed and died in a single day. And here's the maddening part. The fix isn't some rare antidote. It's just water and salts, fast enough. A curse, beaten by rehydration. Rabies is different from all of them. It doesn't spread person to person easily. It doesn't sweep through cities. Its yearly death toll is in the tens of thousands, not the millions. Most cases still come from dog bites, mostly in parts of Africa and Asia. No, rabies is terrifying on the scale of one person. A bite happens and then nothing. The virus hides so long, you actually forget about it. Usually, it takes weeks or months, often 2 or 3, but it can range from about a week to a whole year. It depends on the bite and how the virus travels toward your nerves. And that's the first horror. You can feel completely fine while it's advancing. The virus sneaks in through infected saliva. It doesn't flood your blood and pick a loud fight with your immune system. Nope. It quietly slips into the nerves near the wound and travels inward, toward your spine and your brain. Then, once it's multiplied up there, it spreads back out to your salivary glands, ready for the next bite. Now imagine getting bitten in a world before vaccines. Before anyone even knew what a germ was, the animal runs off. You clean the wound, cover it, pray over it, whatever. The skin heals. You wait. Every headache feels suspicious. Every restless night means something. Maybe you relax after a while, or maybe that old wound starts burning and itching weeks later. That's a classic early sign the virus has reached your nerves. Then comes fever, weakness, a headache, stuff that looks like any ordinary bug. The disease hides inside normal one last time. Then your brain changes. Rabies inflames the brain and spinal cord, and it usually shows up in one of 2 ways. There's furious rabies, agitation, hallucinations, fear of water, sometimes fear of air. And there's paralytic rabies, where weakness slowly turns into total paralysis, then coma, then death. That paralytic form is about 1 in 5 cases, and it's easier to miss because it skips the dramatic stuff. Furious rabies is the one that made this disease a legend. You get anxious, sleepless, confused, maybe delirious, hallucinations, seizures, saliva builds up because you can't swallow anymore. And here's the cruelest part. Sometimes you're lucid enough to understand that something terrible is happening to you. Then, water becomes impossible. People call it fear of water, but that makes it sound calm, like something you could talk yourself out of. It's not. You're desperately thirsty, but the second you try to swallow, your throat and breathing muscles spasm in agony. In late stages, just seeing a glass of water can trigger it. The water's totally safe, but your body treats it like an attack. Think about that. Your survival instinct turned against you. You want the relief. You can see it, and your body just won't let you take it. Air can turn on you too. A light breeze toward your face, and you spasm. Two of the most ordinary things in life, water and moving air, become weapons inside a nervous system that's falling apart. A person like this can look possessed. Honestly, for most of history, that's exactly what people thought. The victim hallucinates, drools, recoils from water, flinches at every little thing, and flips between being themselves and total chaos. A fever looks like sickness. Rabies looks like the person's been replaced. Animals do it too. A rabid animal might turn aggressive, disoriented, fearless, or just quiet and weak. Not all of them foam and attack, but the behavior change plus virus-loaded saliva, that's a transmission machine. And no, the virus isn't controlling the animal on purpose. Evolution doesn't need a plan. Variants that spread just stick around. The virus has no intentions. It only looks like it does, which is why people love calling rabies the perfect zombie virus. It's not. Human-to-human spread is incredibly rare. Rabies survives through animals and bites. Dogs in the huge majority of human cases worldwide. It's not terrifying because it could end civilization. It's terrifying because civilization keeps humming along normally around one person whose fate is basically sealed. And paralytic rabies? It strips away the theatrics without offering any mercy. Weakness creeps up from the bite. Limbs stop working. It looks like other nerve disorders, so doctors can miss it. Then paralysis, coma, and the breathing or the heart just stops. Furious rabies looks like madness. Paralytic rabies looks like disappearing. Both end the same way. Because here's the brutal truth. Once real symptoms show up, rabies is almost always fatal. The WHO says it's fatal once it hits your central nervous system. The CDC calls it nearly always fatal after signs appear. A handful of people have survived, usually after intense experimental care, but they're so rare they don't give doctors a reliable playbook. And that's the second horror. Rabies is one of those rare diseases where medicine is incredibly powerful before you feel sick and almost useless after you finally know you're sick. Post-exposure treatment stops the virus before it locks into your brain. Clean the wound, get the rabies vaccine, and when needed, an injection around the bite. The CDC says, done right, before symptoms, it's nearly 100% effective. So the bite is the emergency. The symptoms are just the aftermath. That flips how we normally think. Usually, you feel bad, then you get help. With rabies, waiting for proof can literally cost you your life. You might need several shots while feeling perfectly fine, because feeling fine is the only window where prevention still works. Rabies punishes hesitation. The animal looked healthy. The scratch was tiny. The kid didn't tell anyone. The wound got washed and forgotten. The clinic was too far. The vaccine was too expensive. And so, it still kills tens of thousands every year. The WHO estimates around 59,000 deaths annually, mostly in Africa and Asia, and mostly kids. It even changed how we treat animals. Your loyal dog, companion, guardian, friend could suddenly become a walking question mark on the same street where your kids play. Communities put down suspicious animals, sometimes healthy ones, just because they couldn't confirm it in time. Rabies didn't just attack bodies. It broke trust between us and the animals closest to us. Now, people spotted this pattern ages ago, Mesopotamian writings from around 4,000 years back tied dangerous dogs, bites, and human death together tightly enough to put it in the law. Greek and Roman writers described mad dogs and fear of water. They didn't know about viruses, but the sequence was too obvious to miss. A dog changes, the dog bites. The person changes, the person dies. That's epidemiology before microscopes. Then, in the 1800s, everything shifted. Enter Louis Pasteur. Pasteur didn't cure a brain that was already lost. He figured out how to train the immune system during that long incubation window. In July 1885, a 9-year-old boy named Joseph Meister showed up, bitten 14 times by a rabid dog. Pasteur's team gave him a course of experimental shots, and Meister survived. Think about how huge that was. The expected result was death. Instead, rabies went from an ancient certainty to a race medicine could actually win. People traveled from all over the world to Paris for treatment, and it helped build what became the Pasteur Institute. Here's the wild part about rabies biology. The disease gives you time. The virus can already be inside you, yet your immune system can still be prepped fast enough to stop it. We usually think of vaccines as something you get before exposure. Rabies made the after-exposure vaccine one of the most dramatic rescues in medical history. The same delay that caused months of dread became the delay that saves your life. And today's treatment? It starts with something almost offensively simple. Wash the wound. Soap and lots of water. The WHO says flush it for about 15 minutes, then get to a professional fast for the vaccine. Soap, water, medicine, speed. 4 ordinary things standing between a bite and one of the worst deaths in medicine. But that simplicity can fool you. People assume rabies is solved everywhere because the tech exists. It's not. A vaccine sitting in another province doesn't help the kid who can't reach it. Poverty turns a preventable disease right back into a deadly one. The virus is ancient. The inequality delivering it, that's on us. Oh, and there's no comfy home test either. You can't wait around for a lab to tell you if the bite took. By the time symptoms answer that question, it's too late. So doctors treat every real exposure as urgent. No calendars. No, let's wait and see. And honestly, the smartest move happens before anyone's ever bitten. Vaccinate the dogs. A vaccinated dog can't carry the virus into your home. The WHO calls dog vaccination the most cost-effective way to prevent human rabies. Not as dramatic as a scientist saving a dying kid, sure, but way more powerful. The best rabies treatment is the case that never reaches a hospital at all. So, is rabies really history's most terrifying disease? Not by the numbers. Smallpox killed far more. The plague's scarier if terror means watching a city fall. Cholera's worse if it means seeing someone collapse in a day. Rabies only wins under one very specific definition. The most terrifying disease isn't necessarily the one most likely to kill you. It's the one that makes the road to death feel designed around fear. A forgotten bite, a silent wait, a tingling scar, losing sleep, losing certainty, being thirsty but unable to drink, staying lucid between the spasms, knowing the cure would have worked earlier, then coma, then death. No other disease strings those together in quite the same order. And here's what really sets it apart. Most deadly infections overpower your body. Rabies turns your body's own wiring against you. The nerves that let you feel, move, swallow, breathe, they become the road and then the battlefield. It doesn't just damage some organ off to the side. It invades the very machinery you use to feel alive. But hey, the ending isn't hopeless. We did something extraordinary here. We watched the pattern for thousands of years. We learned bites mattered. We connected it to animals. Then science found a way to turn the incubation period against the virus. Today, you can get bitten by a rabid animal, get the right care fast, and go on living like nothing happened. That's not small. That's turning a death sentence into an urgent appointment. But the appointment has to happen. Rabies stays terrifying because it splits time into 2 worlds. Before symptoms, medicine can save you. After symptoms, it usually can't. The wound might look healed. The decision isn't. Because history's most terrifying disease doesn't begin when you become afraid of water. It begins the moment everyone decides the bite was probably nothing.